Welcome to worship at First Presbyterian. We at First Presbyterian practice a spacious Christianity, which means no matter where you are in your faith journey, you belong and there is space for you at the table. There is space for your doubts and questions. We believe doubts and questions are a gift that invite us into deeper conversations and a more authentic faith. We believe diversity is a strength. Every story is sacred and everybody matters. We do our best to live the spacious and radical love of Jesus so that all might have a chance to flourish in this world. We are so glad to connect with you in this way. We would also love to worship with you in person if you're ever in the neighborhood on Sunday mornings at 8:30 or 10 a.m. and never hesitate to reach out to us to learn more about us or how we might support you. I hope you enjoy this worship service. Welcome.
Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Help my heart to hear your sound. Speak into my life, Lord, speak now. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Help my heart to hear your sound. Speak into my life, Lord, speak now. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Clear my mind, oh Lord, clear my mind. Bring me peace that I cannot find. Take my worried thoughts, break my pride. Clear my mind, oh Lord, clear my mind. Wake my soul, oh Lord, wake my soul. With this mess I've made, make me whole. Of this life called mine, take control. Wake my soul, oh Lord, wake my soul. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Help my heart to hear your sound. Speak into my life, Lord, speak now. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down.
We continue our summer storytelling. This week, the story is about two women, Vashti and Esther. The story begins with Esther, whose real name is Hadassah. She is about 13 or 14 years old, and life has already been very tough. She knows about grief and loss, as both of her parents have died, and she is being raised by her uncle, Mordecai. Hadassah wasn't seeking to be a heroine or a leader. In her culture, she was simply hoping to survive. Far away in Susa, where those in power lived, there was a king named Xerxes, who threw a giant party. He was a powerful king, but very insecure. He showed off his wealth and possessions to feel big and important. This king had quite a fragile ego. He demanded his queen Vashti to parade in front of his drunken friends as a trophy. Queen Vashti refused. What courage! Remember, women had no voice or value in her culture. Vashti had the courage to stand up for herself, and she refused to be treated as less than. Vashti was banished and loses her crown, but she kept her dignity and self-worth. She lost the comfort and security of the palace, but left with her soul and integrity intact. The king's advisors tell him his popularity is plummeting in the polls and he needs to fix this problem. Their solution? A beauty contest to select the next queen. They rounded up all the beautiful maidens in the land so the king could pick the fairest one of them all. Hadassah was taken away to the palace for the contest. But her uncle Mordecai fears for her life and whispers in Hadassah's ear, "Don't tell them you are a Jew. Hide your ethnicity. Blend in. Assimilate." That's when Hadassah became Esther. She changed her Jewish name to a Persian one. Esther is beautiful and wins the contest. She is now Queen Esther. Palace life becomes comfortable. She has attendants and spa treatments. She forgets there is another life beyond the palace walls. There's a powerful man named Haman who is a friend of the king. Haman, like the king, is also insecure with a fragile ego. He insists that everyone bow when he comes into a room, and everyone bows except Mordecai. Haman hates Mordecai and tells the king he will make it worth his while financially if he makes Haman's people, God's people, suffer. Of course, the king agrees because it will make him richer. One day, Esther is walking past the palace window and sees her uncle Mordecai. Mordecai is trying to get Esther's attention. Mordecai says there are things going on beyond the palace walls that Esther needs to know. Mordecai wants Esther to know that her people are suffering. Their lives are being threatened, and he will keep crying out until his cries are heard. Mordecai wants Esther to see and hear what's going on. Mordecai then says to Esther, "I need you to use your position and power and privilege. I need you to speak for those who can't speak for themselves. I need you to speak truth to power. What good is it for you to live such a good life hidden away if you stand by as others suffer?" Esther says, "Who, me? I can't talk to the king. You know what happened to the last queen who challenged the king?" Mordecai says to Esther, "Who knows? Maybe you are right where you are for such a time as this." Esther prays and fasts for 3 days, and God gives her the courage she needs, and she says to her uncle, "I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish." Esther spoke up on behalf of her people, and because of her courage, a whole generation was saved.
When I used to coach Little League Baseball and I could see that my 12-year-old pitcher was struggling, feeling the pressure on the mound, feeling a whole bunch of self-doubt, I'd call a timeout. and I'd go to the mound. The first thing I would do is I'd ask if this 12-year-old had a girlfriend, just to break the tension. Always worked. And then I would smile and say, "You are right where you're supposed to be. This, right now, this is your moment." Mordecai says something similar to Esther in today's scripture. Who knows? Maybe you are here for such a time as this. Davidson College is a small Presbyterian college just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. The basketball fans know it as the alma mater of Steph Curry. Davidson's basketball coach, Bob McKillop, decided to take his entire basketball team on a pilgrimage to Auschwitz, and not your typical summer training program. Coach McKillop said the volatility of our world right now requires a response informed by both a respect for human dignity and an understanding of what happens when it is absent. He said, "I'm taking these young men back into a moment in time when for millions, evil seemed to have triumphed and humanity had vanished. I want these young men to understand what happened in the past, that they might become the leaders the world needs for the future. Leaders who will have the courage to be champions for human rights and defenders of human dignity. That is why we are going on this trip." He said, "Every generation inherits a moment when the impossible becomes necessary, and we are that generation. This is our moment." We're continuing our summer of storytelling, telling the story of two women today, Vashti and Esther, from the book of Esther. Now, the story begins with Esther, whose real name is Hadassah. She's 13, 14 years old, and she knows grief and loss as both her parents are dead. She's being raised by her uncle Mordecai. Now, far away in Susa, where the powerful people live, there was a powerful but very insecure king. Now, that's a dangerous combination. King Xerxes threw a party to show off his power and his wealth. This king had quite the fragile ego. The king demanded that Queen Vashti be paraded in front of his drunken friends like a trophy, wearing only a crown and nothing else. Queen Vashti refused. She said, "I will not come." Imagine the courage. Remember, women had no value, no voice in that culture. Vashti says, "My self-esteem, my self-worth and dignity are not for sale." Vashti had the courage to stand up for her own dignity, and in doing so, stood up for the dignity of others. Now, Vashti is banished. She loses her crown, but she kept her dignity and self-worth. She lost the comfort and security of the palace, but she left with her soul and integrity intact. Sometimes I wonder if we've simply become accustomed to violence, become accustomed to sexism, racism, if we become accustomed to people being treated as less than, accustomed to a lack of moral center. I wonder if we become accustomed to lies, accustomed to division, accustomed to name-calling, demonizing those who are different. I wonder if we become accustomed to cruelty being normalized. What would it look like Vashti, to have the courage to say no? I refuse to attend that party. I refuse to participate in anything that diminishes the value and the life of others. I refuse to compromise my integrity. Vashti is banished. Now, the king's advisors suggest, not surprisingly, a beauty contest to pick the next queen. They rounded up all of the beautiful young maidens in the land, and that's when the story brings us back to Hadassah. Soldiers from Susa come to her village. They see Hadassah's beauty, and they round her up with all of the other young maidens. Her uncle Mordecai fears for her life and whispers in her ear, "Don't tell them you're a Jew. Hide. Hide your ethnicity. Blend in. Assimilate." And that's when Hadassah becomes Esther. She changes her Jewish name to a Persian name. Now, Esther is beautiful, and she actually wins the beauty contest. She now becomes Queen Esther. Now, palace life becomes comfortable. She has attendants and spa treatments. And Esther began to forget that there is another life beyond the palace. Now, there was a powerful friend of the king named Haman, who, like the king, also has a fragile ego. Do you notice that those powerful people often have a fragile ego? Well, Haman insists that everyone bow, if you can imagine this, that everyone bow when he comes into a room. Well, in fear, everyone bows, except Mordecai. Haman is incensed, and he hates Mordecai, and he tells the king that he will make it worthwhile financially if he punishes and makes Mordecai's people, the Israelites, suffer. Now, of course, the king agrees, because it will make him richer. Now, one day, Esther is walking past the palace window, and Mordecai tries to get her attention. Mordecai says, "There are things going on outside the palace walls, Esther, that you need to see, that you need to know about." Mordecai wants Esther to know that her people are suffering. I don't know about you, but there are things I don't want to see. There are things I don't want to hear about. I was watching television the other day, and there were these heart-wrenching images of children starving in Gaza. Honestly, it was too much. I hate to admit it, but I turned the channel. And then it struck me. What if that starving child in Gaza was my child? And people simply turned the channel. Friends, in God's heart, there is no such thing as other people's children. They are all our children. We need to see, we need to hear, we need to listen, we need to feel. As uncomfortable as it is, we need to feel. Empathy is the birthplace of moral courage. To turn away is to lose our humanity. The world's greatest moral failing is not scarcity. It's indifference. Apathy is not neutral. It's lethal. Well, in the story, Mordecai says to Esther, "I need you, Esther, to use your position, your power, your privilege. I need you to speak for those who can't speak for themselves. I need you to speak truth to power." Mordecai said to Esther, "What good is it for you to live such a good life, hidden away, if you stand by as others suffer?" Esther said, "Who, me? I can't possibly stand up and stand up to the king and speak to the king. You know what happened to the last queen who challenged the king. Mordecai says to Esther, and says to us, who knows? Maybe you are right where you are for such a time as this. Now, the beauty of the story is not that Esther is naturally courageous. She is not Joan of Arc with a sword in her hand. She's actually a young woman, caught between worlds, afraid of what might happen if she does speak up. The story says Esther prays and fasts for 3 days. The turning point comes when she realizes that her position, her privilege, her very survival are not for her alone. The call of God is not merely to keep her safe and comfortable. The call of God is to be used in the service of love and justice. God gives Esther the courage she needs. She says to her uncle, I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish. Esther is stepping into the truth that life's deepest purpose is found when we're willing to risk ourselves for the sake of others, when we're willing to risk ourselves for the sake of love. I wonder if Esther heard stories, that continued to reverberate through the palace about the astonishing courage of Vashti, how she had the courage to stand up for her own dignity and the dignity of others. I wonder if that gave Esther a little extra courage herself. You never really know the influence that you have on others. It was Esther's courage not to turn away. It was her courage to choose love over fear that saved an entire generation of people. There's an old story, older than our bones, older than the words we speak. It begins in the dark, as all real stories do. In this story, the protagonist is not a hero carved of stone or crowned with gold. She is you. He is you. They are you. An ordinary soul with calloused hands, perhaps weary from a long journey, perhaps trembling at the thought of what lies ahead. In this old story, you do not set out seeking greatness. You're busy with the work of the day, preparing food, writing reports, raising children, doctor's appointments, tending wounds. Then, as if a wind rises from nowhere, the world tilts. Something comes knocking. It doesn't say, "Are you ready?" It says, "It is time." And in the marrow of your bones, you know you were made for such a time as this. You've been carrying the seed of this moment your entire life. So, beloveds, for such a time as this, when we are witnessing the worst of humanity, do not turn away. Show the world the best of your humanity. Ask yourself every morning, what is love? What is love asking me to do today? Every generation inherits a moment when the impossible becomes necessary. You are right where you're supposed to be. This is our moment. May it be so.
not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, tell me when. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. Although there will be struggle, we'll make the change we can. If not now, tell me when. We'll work until it's done. Every daughter, every son, every soul that ever longed for something better, something brighter. And it will take a change of heart for this to mend. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. But miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. And miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when.
Friends, every generation inherits a moment when the impossible becomes necessary. This is our moment. You were made for such a time as this. Go in the peace and the love of Christ. And may the love that you bring into this world in this moment in time, may your love bring peace to others. Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed this worship service. If you would like to make a donation, helping make these podcasts possible, or support the many ways First Presbyterian seeks to serve our community, you can make a financial gift online at bendfp.org. Every week, we hear from someone thanking us for the gift of these broadcasts and what a difference they make. Your support makes that possible. Our church is committed to reach beyond our walls, bringing hope where there is despair and love where it is needed the most. Your generous support helps us to be generous in love. Go to our website, bendfp.org, and click on the link Give Online. Your support is really appreciated and makes a difference in people's lives. Thanks again. I hope to see you next week.